Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class G2 Deadend. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Is it a pickup or a pass? Now let's take a look at the figure's packaging. So here we have the packaging. Starting at the very front, we have Transformers on the side. We have the Legacy Evolution logo at the bottom. We do have G2 Universe Deadend in white text. We have a really cool artwork shot of Deadend and a sports car alt mode. We have an open way of displaying the figure in the packaging. If we do turn to the top, we have the Legacy Evolution logo again. If we do turn to the side, we have two artwork shots of Deadend. One more of a close-up and one more of a kind of running action pose with his blasters. On the back, of course, we have two product shots showing off the figure in the robot and alt mode, and he transforms in 15 steps. Also, of course, you have half of the Legacy Evolution artwork, so if you do get into the Deluxe, a part of this Toxitron collection subline, such as Mirage, and you put both boxes together, you can complete the artwork. And that is pretty much it for the packaging, so let's now get into the review. Here we have G2 Deadend in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with the head sculpt. There's some really nice yellow for the mouthpiece and the visor. There's some metallic blue for that main helmet section. There's some more silver and metallic blue for the chest, and I do like how the wheels are actually at the shoulders done in silver and black. And there's this really cool kind of fireball decal kind of sticker design at the form done in red, yellow, and black. They're not actually stickers. I think they were just probably made to resemble a sticker, which is a pretty cool detail that Hasbro really didn't have to do. And there's some black for the form, and there's some more of that metallic blue for the shoulder, and of course same details repeated on the other arm, and there's some more of that silver metallic blue for the waist, crotch, and the top of the legs. As for the front of the legs, I really do like the sculpt work, and the wheels are on the side. I think that looks overall really cool, but definitely needed some paint apps. This complaint actually was the same, of course, with the past release, the mainline release. That figure did not have enough paint apps for his legs too. Of course, it was a different color on that figure. They were actually kind of a dark maroon red, and there was some really nice sculpt work, but if they actually added some paint apps for both of these figures, both releases of Deadend, the details, the scope work would be more noticeable, because from certain views, if you actually do have it far away on a shelf, it kind of just looks like all of his legs are just red. So it's a bit plain and bland for my liking. But if we actually do look at the side profile, overall really well compact. There is a bit of a backpack, but it's never really bothered me. And if we do look at the back of the figure, the back of the arms and legs, overall really well filled in. No panels, no kibble, overall really good, no waffling. It is a bit interesting. I do actually recall and remember people saying this with the mainline release, how there's actually more details on the back of the legs than, of course, the actual front. I actually have seen people rotate the legs around where this is actually the front of the leg, and of course the front becomes the back. You can do that if you want to. I typically don't, but it's definitely an option if you want to. But that is pretty much it for the details. So now for articulation, if you do have the mainline release of Deadend, you know exactly what to expect here. If you never got that figure, I think it's overall pretty average for deluxe class figures. The head cannot look up or down, but it can move side to side. The arms can move out and in, forward and back. There is a bicep rotation, there is an elbow bend, there is no wrist rotation, there is a full functioning waist rotation, completely unhindered. The legs can kick forward and back barely. The legs can kick out to the side. There is rotation at the top of the leg, and there is a knee bend, and there is an ankle pivot, and a pivot forward and back with the foot. Let me just quickly straighten him up. So articulation is overall pretty good. Again, if you do have the mainline release, you know exactly what to expect here. Nothing has changed. But unfortunately, just the mold in general, just this character Deadend, the articulation has never been the best. There is definitely several areas which really could have improved. Again, not really complaint specific to the Walmart release, really just, of course, this Deadend mold in general. I had the same problems with the mainline release, so I definitely think he could have had a wrist rotation, because typically when a figure doesn't have a wrist rotation, it's because of, you know, transformation, maybe how the figure was built. But I really don't think anything was stopping them other than budget, because a part of transformation, you really don't fold in the hands or transform the forms, so that definitely could have been a part of this figure. It really would have been nice maybe if they actually changed it for this Walmart release, if they really wanted to go the extra mile, but unfortunately they did not. Another complaint is actually where the legs are concerned. You might have already seen the legs can actually barely kick forward and barely kick back. It's actually because this entire waist kind of crotch piece, there's not enough clearance and space, so they just had a bit of a gap here to actually allow more room for the legs. That would have been nice. Again, not really a complaint specific to the Walmart release, of course, just this mold in general. I was, of course, not surprised at seeing this, because of course that problem was consistent with the last release. But as for complaints, that's pretty much it. Definitely would have been nice if there was some more movement with the legs, but a very minor complaint. Again, I expected it, so it really was not a surprise. As for accessories, they're the exact same ones that came with the past release, so there's two identical, really cool blasters, done in metallic blue and black. Actually, at the last release, of course, it was just a different deco. It was done actually in black and metallic purple, but I might prefer this deco maybe because blue is my favorite color, so might be slightly biased in that aspect, but I do like this really cool kind of hook piece. They are blaster piece compatible. There's actually a really cool scope, and you can store them in the hands. And again, if I didn't mention, they are completely identical. They are not different in any way. And you can just store them in the hands there. And I think that looks really cool how you can actually have him dual wield them. But now for some comparisons, here he is with his mold mates, the mainline release of Legacy Deluxe Class Deadend, which was a figure from last year. So really just up to your own personal preference of which deco you prefer. I 100% guarantee you prefer the more G1 accurate deco. That's just my opinion anyway, but it's really up to your own personal preference. As for which figure is better, you know, with the tolerances, you know, the quality, the articulation, I'd say they're about equal because they actually probably do have most of the same problems that I usually, that I had before, and most of the things I actually like about them. They really didn't improve or, of course, decrease. They pretty much stayed the same, which is, in a way, kind of good. Yes, they probably could have fixed some things on this figure, but I really wasn't expecting them to, change the mold or do anything crazy, but it would have been nice if they did go the extra mile to do that, but again, I really wasn't expecting to. So overall, if you do have the mainline release, you kind of know what to expect with this figure. Again, it's really just a matter of which deco you prefer. But on my copies, the tolerances have pretty much stayed the same. Articulation is the same. Accessories, as you can see, is the same. And just kind of go into the back in case you're wondering. Overall, pretty much have that same backpack, and the back of the legs look the same. And as I mentioned before, both of the front of the legs are quite plain. They definitely could use some more paint apps where the front of the legs are concerned. As I said before, you can actually flip the leg around and actually have the back of the leg face forward if you want to, which is an option if you want to. I typically don't, but if you want to slightly customize and mistransform the figure, go right ahead. But please do let me know in the comment section below of the two Deadend figures we've actually gotten in the past, 2 years, which one is your preferred deco of the G1 or the G2? Definitely my preferred is the classic look. But hey, if you missed your opportunity on getting that mainline release, you actually have a perfect opportunity now to fill that slot in your collection and finally complete the Stunticons and get this figure. But now for one more comparison, it's actually a Walmart exclusive comparison from the Legacy Velocitron collection. Here he is with Cosmos. I think they look pretty cool side by side. And that is pretty much it for comparisons and this robot mode. Let's now get down to transformation. Now for transformation, what you're going to do is actually fold in the feet, just like that. Then you're actually going to go to the arms, hinge these panels down, like that. Do the same thing on the arm, just hinge that panel down, then get the wheel, hinge that down as well. Do the same thing on the other side. Then you're actually going to flip to the back, open up this entire compartment back here. There is slots right there and tabs right there. Then you're actually going to untab the shoulder and arm from the chest. There is, of course, tabs and slots there and a corresponding tab and slot right there. Then you're actually going to get the head, fold this back into that open cavity. Of course, that's right there. Then you're going to actually compress that in. Then you can hinge the entire shoulder and arm up. There is an open cavity right there that the entire arm is going to pretty much fit right inside like that. Do the same thing on the other side, just fold it in, and of course both halves will actually tab together just like that. Then you're going to flip to the top, get the entire front hood or front portion of the car, and just tab that into place to form pretty much the entire front half like that. That's pretty much done. They're actually going to focus on the back half now. You're going to open up these panels on the front portion of the leg, which they're actually really tight on my copy, so just untab that. Of course, there is 2 tabs there and slots on the inside of that panel. Same thing on their side, just open that up. Then you can actually tab the legs together. As you can see, there is a tab and slot. Just tab that together. And what you're going to do is pretty much just collapse and fold the legs all the way in like that. There's also tabs here and slots on the front half of the car. And that will just tab in place like that. And then you're going to go to the bottom, close these up. And that is it for transformation. Let's now take a look at the details. Here we have G2 Deadend in his vehicle mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very front, we have some Merlina silver for these front headlights with some black and red for this huge insignia on the front hood with some red for the base color of the hood, and some Merlina silver for this entire windscreen section with some sculpted and windshield wipers. And if we do turn to the side, there's some small little mirrors also done in red with some more silver for these windows, and a really cool fireball kind of decal sticker design. Again, it's not an actual sticker, probably just made to look a bit retro and old like a sticker, which is a pretty cool detail that Hasbro really didn't have to to do. And all 4 wheels overall look really cool done in black and silver. I'm pretty sure they are mushroom peg wheels, but in this situation, it really doesn't bother me. I typically do not like mushroom peg wheels, but in this situation where you cannot really tell if it is, it really doesn't bother me. And there's some more silver, blue, and yellow on the top. And unfortunately, G2 Deadend here actually does have the same kind of tolerance or kind of problem that the last release had, the mainline release, where this entire back section, at least on my copy anyway, never really wanted to tab in. These are actually the feet from the robot mode, and it actually tabs in several different ways. I can actually sometimes get this clip on these 2 panels here to tab into place, but either it'll have a crease here or it'll have a crease here, and sometimes it's actually both. So it's really hard to fix. I've actually never gotten it completely flush. Again, this could just be a really on my copy type thing, but as I said before, both the G2 Deadend and the G1 classic mainline release Deadend had that problem. So I'm thinking it's probably a widespread problem, which has been unfortunate that Hasbro didn't really take the time and try and fix this. They probably just needed maybe like another tab, or maybe just fix this connection so it'd actually be more secure. But again, I was actually kind of expecting this problem, so I really wouldn't say I'm the biggest disappointed or surprised about this. But overall, it's a pretty cool looking car. It rolls pretty well across the ground. So now for accessory storage, of course, those 2 blasters. I've always actually really liked the storage, but it's actually very unfortunate this entire back section here has the problem. It would have been better maybe if it was like underneath and not as noticeable, but where you store the weapons, of course, there's all those creases, so it's a bit hard to actually ignore because it's in one of those most noticeable spots. But I do like how the weapons store kind of on the back, and I like how they're angled up, and again, they are Blaster Piece compatible. I just always really like the storage. I think it's pretty cool. But now for some comparisons, here he is with his mold mates Deadend, the Legacy Deluxe class Deadend, I'm pretty sure from Wave 3 from last year. And overall, mold-wise, the exact same thing, just of course a heavy repaints, really just a matter of preference of which deco you prefer. And I have to say, probably for the vehicle mode, I might prefer the G2, but for the room mode, I probably prefer the G1. That is just my opinion anyway. As you can see, same accessories stored the exact same way, and unfortunately, they both have that gap problem in the back, as I previously mentioned. And we do have a side view here. We're all looking pretty cool. That's pretty much it for that comparison. Here he is actually with another StuntCon Wild Rider. I think they overall look pretty cool side by side. And for one final comparison, actually another G2 StuntCon, that being G2 Shadow Strip. So he's technically not a StuntCon, but he's actually using a StuntCon mold, using the drag strip mold. So maybe we'll actually be getting the other StuntCons and their G2 colors, because it's actually gotten G2 Deadend. We have a G2 repaint of drag strip, and maybe we'll get like a G2 Motor Master, or maybe a Wild Rider Breakdown. Maybe sometime we'll actually get that to have a full, G2 Menasor. I think that'd be pretty cool to have in the collection. And overall, that is pretty much it for comparisons. So let's now get down to reverse transformations. What you want to do is just remove the accessories and put them off to the side like that. Then you're actually going to flip to the bottom, open up these panels on the bottom, then you're going to untab the legs from this section here. So there is tabs here and slots on this front half. You're just going to completely extend and flip out the legs. And if you wanted to see those slots, they are right there, and that's how that tabs into place. Then you're going to close this up like that. You can then separate the legs in half, flip the feet forward like that. Then you're going to flip to the top, open up this panel here, and just hinge this up like that. And how this is tabbed into places, there is tabs here and slots underneath this panel. Then you're going to separate the arms like that all the way, and then you're going to open up the section back here, flip the head up on this really tight hinge, just flip that up. Then you're going to tab the shoulder in place. There is a tab and slot here and a corresponding tab and slot right there. Tab that into place like that, just straighten up the head. Then you can finally actually close this up. There is slots here and tabs right there. That's just going to tab into place. Then you're going to hinge the wheels up towards the shoulder, and then get these panels, hinge them up, and then you can just quickly straighten them out back to a neutral pose. That is pretty much it for reverse transformation. Let's actually now get to one last thing I want to quickly show you before the final thoughts. I wanted to show off one last thing before we actually end the review with the typical final thoughts. I wanted to show off how G2 Deadend here is compatible with the Legacy Commander class Motor Master. So in case maybe you're missing that mainline release of Deadend and you have the other 4 StuntCons and you just want to finally complete that Menasor Commander, you can get this Walmart exclusive release of Deadend. Of course, he does have the G2 colors, so it's not the typical color scheme you're used to, but you can still finally fill in that last slot, of course, complete that arm, and actually complete the Menasor Combiner. I'm actually not going to bring in the full Menasor Combiner here. here. I'm really just going to show it on his arm and of course just show how it's compatible and what it looks like, and then we'll get into the final thoughts. So it's just the typical, connection and transformation. Just align all those posts and ports like that and plug that into place, and then you're going to do that really cool feature where you pretty much break the car and the arm in half. It does require quite a bit of force. Just split it like that, and then you're going to extend this top portion here, hinge this in, extend this entire bottom portion, hinge that in, and there's just one last step. You're actually going to collapse the wheels in, and there we have the G2 Deadend combined with the Menasor or Motor Master, which I actually think, of course, for the time being, this can be kind of a substitute, but I'm pretty sure down the line we might get a full G2 Menasor, the full G2 Senticons, because we actually do have the G2 Deadend here. We also do have a drag strip repaint, the G2 Shadow Strip, and maybe we're going to be getting some more Senticons like a G2, Wild Rider or Breakdown or Motor Master. I think that'd be pretty cool to have a full G2 Menasor. Maybe down the road we'll actually get that, but there's the compatibility with the G2 Deadend. That's pretty much it. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. Now for the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class G2 Deadend. Is this a must-buy figure? That kind of depends on your situation. If you actually did miss the mainline Legacy Deluxe Deadend from last year, of course, this is a perfect opportunity for you to get a Deadend figure and, of course, fill that space in your collection, because this might be a situation where you got all of the other 4 Senticons, but you missed Deadend, of course, so a perfect opportunity to get this figure now. It is an exclusive, of course, but you probably do have a really good chance of maybe finding it on Hazard Pulse, Walmart, or maybe even eBay. It might be a little bit overpriced because it is an exclusive, but honestly I think you'll probably find it cheaper on this figure than the actual mainline release, because of course a lot of people do want those original classic G1 colors. If you do already have the mainline release of Deadend, no, I would not say this is a must buy, but of course completionists will 100% get this. I am pretty much a completionist myself. I of course 100% do have the original mainline one and this one, and I'm actually perfectly okay with that. I do have to say, if you are not a completionist and you already do have the mainline release, I have to say give this figure a chance, because no, there is no new molding, but it's actually a really solid, good repaint. As for, of course, is it an improvement or is it worse than the mainline release? I really wouldn't say either. I would say it's pretty much about the same. There's no, decrease like in paint quality or figure quality or plastic quality. It's overall pretty much the same. If you have the mainline release, you pretty much know exactly what to expect. It's really just a matter of if you like the G2 deco or if you really prefer the G1 and you're not really into those crazy colors. I actually kind of like them. There's some really cool fireballs on the side of the arms. They actually do become the sides of the car. I love the huge insignia, the G2 insignia on the front hood in the car mode, and I love all the metallic blue on the helmet section, the head sculpt, and the 2 blasters look really cool on the back portion of the car, and again I love that metallic blue. And if you're wondering about the accessories, they're the exact same accessories that came with the mainline release, of course, just a completely brand new coat of paint or a brand new deco. Actually, I think I might prefer this deco or this version of the blasters over the original. That's just my opinion anyway. Unfortunately, it actually does have the same tolerance problems that were actually on the previous release, the mainline release, so I don't know if it was just me, but I actually watched several reviews of the mainline Deadend and this one, and pretty much everyone has the same problem where the entire back portion of the car never wants to stay together. If you actually did watch my Legacy review of the Deluxe Class Deadend, of course, you probably did see me mention the back portion of the car where it does not want to stay tabbed together. And it's actually really unfortunate because the weapons store there, and I think that's a really good, cool place to put the weapons, but there's typically a crease or kind of a line or an opening or a gap in that area. You probably will see it when it, of course, turns around just right there, and it just never wants to stay. I'll fiddle it with it, for 30 minutes, an hour if you wanted to, and just will not stay fully flush, fully compact, which is pretty unfortunate. I was really hoping, for this figure, this new release, of course, or this repaint of Deadend, they were actually going to give a chance and actually try and, of course, fix that tolerance problem, because I'm pretty sure they knew of it, because I think every single review of Deadend with the original version, everyone mentioned this problem. I really don't think it was like a one copy type of thing or just like a rare situation. I think it was most copies, so it's a bit unfortunate. You probably could come up with some way in fixing it, like maybe you could shave some of the tabs down, or like maybe use some floor polish or something. I typically don't really modify my figures, but maybe there is some secret way out there. If you do like to modify your figures, maybe there is a way to fix it. But other than that, there's no really, I would say, glaring, tolerance issues other than that. But of course, that issue still remained on the original one, so nothing really got worse or better. Pretty much stayed the same. But as for the car mode, of course, love the fireball, love the huge insignia. Overall, I've just really loved this car mode. I know people did complain with the mainline release how, of course, the entire bottom portion or kind of front portion of the car sits a bit too low and it doesn't roll as well. Yes, that is a valid complaint, complaint, but it's never really bothered me because I really don't, roll them across any surface very often. Yes, if you do like to, go crazy with your cars and maybe roll them on surfaces, yes, that could be bothersome, but I typically actually display them in the robot mode, so it's never really bothered me, and it still does not bother me. As for the transformation, it's pretty much the exact same thing. There's no new steps. Overall, if you've never gotten them before, if this is your first time experiencing the mold, it's actually quite fun. In a way, if you do have drag strip, and you've never experienced this figure, it's actually somewhat similar in some areas, especially where the arms are concerned, so I really wouldn't find it too challenging. I do have to say there is some panels that are actually really tight on this version of the mold that are actually pretty normal and kind of loose on the mainline release. Of course, I actually kind of prefer the loose over the tight. If you did watch the transformation segment or area in this review, you could actually see the front panels on his legs are so tight, and it's 2 tabs, but there's, no new molding or anything. I guess they're just really tight on this copy. Nothing's gonna break, maybe they could be a bit looser. As for the robot mode, I actually really do like it. It's such a crazy deco. I love all the metallic blue, no new molding in case you're wondering, and the blasters of course can store in his hands, which I love the blaster mold. And again, I probably do prefer this blaster sort of deco, the metallic blue and black, over the original one. That's just my opinion anyway, and they are blaster piece compatible in case you're wondering. Articulation is pretty standard for a deluxe class figure. It's the exact same thing as the mainline release, so you know exactly what to expect here if you have that figure. If you don't, as I said, pretty average and standard for a deluxe class figure. Unfortunately, this is one of those figures that I do recall mentioning in the mainline review where he does not have a wrist rotation, which there's really no reason to, because there is some figures that don't have a wrist rotation for a very good reason. It might be something to do with, transformation or how the figure was engineered. There's really nothing stopping them from giving this figure a wrist rotation, probably other than budget, because a part of transformation, you pretty much really don't transform the arms in any way. They really just become the sides of the car. So if they could have increased the budget for this figure, of course, not really complaint specific to this release, just the Deadend mold in general, if they increased it just a few dollars and added a wrist rotation, I think that would have been really nice. He does have an ankle pivot and a waist rotation, which is really nice. Leg articulation could be a tad bit better. Again, not a complaint specific to the Walmart one, just in general the Deadend mold. I do remember this, remembering this, I do remember kind of realizing this with the mainline release. So he actually does have a bit of a hip skirt piece where his waist is. You cannot actually move it. It's a bit too big, so the leg kicking forward and back is slightly limited. Of course, it's not the biggest deal, but you can definitely tell he cannot kick his legs forward, longer or more out than typical deluxes. It's definitely a difference, but overall, very little complaints, of course. As I said before, it's not really, of course, a bad thing. It didn't really get worse from the past release, but it really didn't get better. I would say both figures, the mainline Deadend and the Walmart exclusive one, I'd say they're both pretty good figures. I really don't like one more than the other. Do I probably prefer the classic G1 deco? Yes, but as of course for, build quality, tolerances, the figure in general, I wouldn't really say one's worse or better. I still do highly recommend it. Of course, do remember what I said at the very beginning of the of the final thoughts, is this a must buy? Really just it kind of depends on your situation. If you do have already the mainline release, this might not be the figure for you. If you never got it, of course, this is a perfect opportunity for you to get it now, so you can fill that space in your collection and finally get a Deadend. If you're a completionist, of course, go ahead. But I do have to say again, if you're not a completionist and you already have the mainline release, I highly recommend to check this figure out. It's actually a pretty cool figure. Apparently, this is actually a short packed figure. I think it's only one per case, so it's probably a very hard to come by figure. So if you ever do see this at Walmart, maybe in stock on Hasbro Pulse, or a really good deal on eBay, I would say definitely buy it as soon as you can. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you next time.